The Disability Discrimination Act 1992 and the Disability Standards for Education seek to eliminate, as far as possible, discrimination against people with disabilities. For the purposes of the DDA, disability is defined more broadly than the Queensland EAP verification categories. It also covers some disabilities which may not meet criteria for resourcing support. For example, learning disorders such as dyslexia, epilepsy, ADHD, and temporary disabilities as a result of an accident or illness. Brisbane Catholic Education is committed to ensuring that we meet our obligations to respect and include students with disabilities, consistent with the Disability Standards for Education. We acknowledge that reasonable adjustments must be made across the areas specified in the standards. Multiple adjustments may have to be made for each student, and adjustments may change during the course of the student's enrolment. However, the Disability Standards for Education and disability discrimination case law recognise that there are limits on the adjustments which schools are able to make for some students with disabilities. This video will focus on understanding the scope of reasonableness and unjustifiable hardship, which operate as limits on the legal obligation to make adjustments.
The Disability Standards for Education provide that an adjustment is reasonable if it balances the interests of all parties affected. This means that schools can consider the ramifications of a particular adjustment for the whole school community, including the student seeking the adjustment, other students in the class and in other year levels, all staff and families of the students attending the school. The resourcing implications for the school system as a whole may also be considered. The standards also state that all relevant circumstances should be considered when assessing whether a particular adjustment is reasonable. These circumstances should include the student's disability, the views of the student or the student's associates about the proposed adjustment, the effect of the proposed adjustment on the student's ability to be independent, to achieve learning outcomes and participate in courses or programs, the effect on any other school community member, the costs and benefits of making the proposed adjustment. Let's look at each circumstance in more detail. What are the ramifications of the disability for the student and the school? What adjustments, if any, could be made for this disability? A recent case interpreting the disability standards suggests that there may be situations where, because of the nature of the disability, no reasonable adjustment is able to be identified. What adjustments have the student or the student's associates requested? What adjustments are suggested by assessments conducted by experts on behalf of the student? What would the positive and negative effects of the proposed adjustments be for the student? It may be appropriate for the school to request further assessments to assist in determining these effects. It should be noted that in making adjustments to curriculum, the school is entitled to maintain the integrity of its courses or programs. This important issue of academic integrity will be developed further in another video. Will making the adjustment have an effect on others in the school community? For example, how does installing a lift in a school building affect others? Considerations include the financial and social costs and any flow-on practical benefits for the school community. Would the installation of a lift benefit any other members of the school community? Even a reasonable adjustment will not be required to be made if it would impose unjustifiable hardship on the school. Circumstances for determining whether there will be unjustifiable hardship are in many respects similar to those for determining whether an adjustment is reasonable. One important difference is that when determining whether they will face unjustifiable hardship, schools and school systems are allowed to take into account their financial circumstances and the estimated amount of expenditure the adjustment would impose. How is the intersection between reasonableness and unjustifiable hardship to be managed in practice by schools? A school or school system may seek to rely on unjustifiable hardship to support a decision that an adjustment will not be made, or that an adjustment already in place is no longer reasonable and will cease. This may be considered, for example, when the school or school system has insufficient financial resources to fund the adjustment. A recent case considering the reasonableness of one-on-one full-time support for a student, for example, suggested evidence relevant to the cost of making the adjustment must be assessed having regard to the practical realities of the situation and not hypothetically as if resources were unlimited. Reliance on unjustifiable hardship may also be considered where reasonable adjustments have been genuinely attempted, but the effects of the student's disability puts the health and safety of others at unjustifiable risk or causes unjustifiable disruption to the learning environment. It should be noted that unjustifiable hardship may be relevant to a decision to refuse enrolment or to a decision to exclude. It is significant that unjustifiable hardship can be raised after enrolment for two reasons. First, disability may change over time, influencing the adjustments which are considered necessary and the subsequent hardship on the school or school system. For example, the cost of delivering adjustments to a student with a degenerative disability may increase to an unsustainable level over time. Secondly, the impact of the disability may only become clear after enrolment, at which time the required adjustments may need to be reassessed. It may be the adjustments then considered necessary would impose unjustifiable hardship on the school. A school may be more confident about enrolling a student with a disability, even if the financial, social or educational impact of the disability is uncertain at the time of enrolment. A school must be prepared to support, with evidence, a decision not to make an adjustment because it is unreasonable, and any argument that it faces unjustifiable hardship arising from the inclusion of a student with a disability. If legal action is commenced, schools may need to produce evidence of any adjustments that have been made, financial records, evidence of flow-on costs, and documentation about disruptive, dangerous or destructive behaviour causing hardship.
It is clear that reasonableness and unjustifiable hardship are complex concepts. Because every school is different, every student is different, and every disability is different, it's not possible to make hard and fast rules that will apply in every case about what is unreasonable or what is unjustifiable. However, Brisbane Catholic Education has developed sound processes around managing the inclusion of students with disability. We have staff in schools and at system level who are experienced in providing support in this area. The likelihood of complaints is minimised where staff engage respectfully with students and their families and consider carefully the relevant circumstances set out in the standards before decisions are made. If a school is concerned that an adjustment decision may trigger a complaint to the Australian Human Rights Commission or the Queensland Anti-Discrimination Commission, the matter should be referred to BCE Legal Counsel.